Hello there, it's a beautiful good afternoon and a warm welcome to today's edition of The People's Verdict. Your host, I am Afias Kaptula. The country having witnessed a number of crises or other disasters coming from the COVID-19 pandemic, which was global. We moved to the flooding, which affected the country last year, and this year we moved to cholera, which is a recurring issue, as well as the dry spells. Today we thought we should discuss humanitarian crisis response. To help us discuss that topic, we have in the studio with me, Mr. EZRA BANDA. However, we are going to go for a break, and we're going to continue.
Hey, join me, amazing Katamanda, on the weekly gospel show for those exciting and interesting interviews with your favorite gospel music.
Hold on to me when it's too dark to see. You cannot put your back door. Hallelujah.
And this time around, we are bringing to you entertainment news and the counter, as you guys are able to nominate your top 3 favorite music videos of the week. Remember, it's every Saturday at 10:45. You can also catch repeats every Monday at 10 hours. Camnet TV is not just another time.
Thanks very much for staying with us. Me just now introducing our guest for today, Mr. EZRA BANDA from ZAMBIA Foundation. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Afias, and good afternoon, viewers.
All right. How is the foundation?
No, ZAMBIA Foundation, we are fine, and equally responding to different needs of the society. Yeah.
Before we go into the nitty-gritties of our discussion in terms of describing what humanitarian crisis is and others, our viewers would just like to know what is ZAMBIA Foundation, or what is just this organization about?
Okay, thank you very much. ZAMBIA Foundation is a local NGO which was formed in 1996. So we're talking about 27 years of operations. Our main focus really is working with the marginalized people in the area of livelihood improvement. So that's our major focus. In terms of our response from our thematic areas, we are looking at environment and climate change. Then also we are looking at food and nutrition security. Then we are looking at social protection and economic justice. So this is an organization which is a national organization. Currently is operating in 3 provinces, that's Southern Province, Lusaka, and Western, covering about 15 districts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well said there. We are having this discussion on the backdrop of a number of issues that have been happening in the country. We have the cholera pandemic, which is somewhat brought under control, and also we have the current dry spells. Before we get into this, we just define what is a humanitarian crisis.
Okay, thank you very much. When you look at it just from the word itself, we're talking about humanitarian crisis. So we are looking at it, there are different humanitarian crises. We can look at it from the climate point. You can look at it from civil strife, wars. So there are several really, so you can divide them according to the category. Then mostly, like in Zambia, we are looking at human crisis, which are focused most on climate-induced crisis. So these we are saying in terms of when we're talking about human crisis, or when we're talking about humanitarian crisis, we are talking about the shocks which happens, whereby the people might not have the capacity on their own to respond. So they would look for external assistance to come on board. So these are sudden issues which happen. Yeah. Though maybe at times there could be some signal that they're going to happen, but they can strike at any time. You're talking about issues like earthquake, cyclone, they just happen. In the morning you find your home is gone. So these are the type of what we call humanitarian crisis.
Oh, yeah. All right. In Zambia, we have had a number of crises, maybe even in the recent past we have already alluded to. How do you describe the response to a number of human crises in Zambia? Maybe just first we just look at the response. How do you describe the response to human crisis in Zambia?
Yeah, I think basically when you look at the issues of of humanitarian crisis, I think the component of preparedness cannot be described as being adequate. Yeah, I think why do I say like this? I would give maybe a critical example of cholera. I think you and I must have heard about cholera, not yesterday. Okay, it was something that was reported somewhere in October. And maybe you look at the place like Vubu in Eastern Province as the origin of cholera. So when you look at that, and then it reaches at the time when it was almost becoming a huge crisis for the nation, it shows that maybe our responses are not quite adequate. Yeah, because no human being should die from diseases which are curable. Like when you're talking about cholera, I think this is a statement which comes from Minister of Health, that no human being should die of cholera. It's something that is treatable. So if it's something that is treatable, then if somebody dies out of that, then we need to start critiquing the processes of the preparedness. Yeah. So to myself, I would say maybe to some extent that hasn't been well timed, because we should have stopped that when it was coming in October. We should have adequately responded and closed it. You know, as we are living, every life is important. So whether you say one person has died from cholera, that should call for maximum attention so that there and then the calamity is closed. Yeah.
All right, maybe that is on the part of the state. Now, looking at non-state actors, we do understand, for instance, in this cholera pandemic that we had, we saw that there are a lot of overwhelming response from the NGOs, including yourselves, into coming into the fore to help in terms of this humanitarian crisis which was faced. How would you describe the response to crises in Zambia, especially by the non-state actors?
I think basically non-state actors are always equal to the task. But I think what you have to understand is that also, like any other institutions, they have to mobilize resources, because these are non-state actors. So mostly I think ourselves, we are happy to mention that a lot of international NGOs came on board timely. They had to send alert to the international supporters who timely came in to give the support. Like Keepers has been responding to this in conjunction with Oxfam. But again, there was another part where we are together with Save the Children as well as CRS in responding. So, in short, non-state actors, I think, they are always ready to respond. But like any other person, there could be the issues of the processes of mobilizing resources, because the resources might not be readily available to respond. Unlike maybe the way it can be with the government can deliberately have the readily available resources which they can respond within 24 hours. But maybe with NGOs, you need to do some consultations here and there, and then touch and coordinate. But I think we are timely, because when you look at ourselves, we want to talk about ourselves, especially the consortium which got money from Start Network. I think we were able to get the monies we started the operation by 15th December. So in terms of the alert, even the supporters, the way they treat a humanitarian crisis, the turnaround is quite very fast. Yes.
All right, well, viewers, you're watching The People's Verdict, and today our focus is on humanitarian crisis response. You understand that the country has had a number of situations that you might just call crises in terms of the cholera outbreak, as well as the flooding and the dry spell which the country is experiencing right about now. In the studio, we have Mr. EZRA Banda from Zambia Foundation-KZF, who is helping us discuss this topic, coming from a humanitarian organization right there. Mr. Banda, moving on, maybe moving into specifics, especially delving into the issue of of cholera. As a humanitarian organization, specifically, what has been your contribution to the response of cholera?
Of course, I think in the area of cholera, I think the genesis or the background of cholera is well known. That I think mostly is associated with, people drinking unsafe water. Okay. Then again, the other part is the hygiene and sanitation at that level. So, given that, I think ourselves we focused at the issues of trying to raise awareness among the people. You see, information gap is very paramount. Though some people do debate that information is everywhere, but if the information is not acted upon, like in economics we say there's effective demand. The other part we talk about demand. Demand itself is not what you can write home about, but you need to write home on the issues of effective demand. So even the issues of communication, information dissemination, is very important if you see that you are able to change the livelihood of the people, the behavior change. So I think what was very important from our side, first was to make sure that we bring in the issues of those issues which fast track, which can help us to save the lives of the people. We had to bring in the issues of chlorine, we had to bring in the issues of ORS to help the government, contribute to the government's effort to set up the ORS rehydration points as the first line before the person can go to the facility. So we are doing that, but at the same time, we realize that in terms of water contamination, okay, there might be a lot of channels, but I think also if we define it from maybe 3 points, which is at the source, where the water is collected, during the transportation from the source to the house, and during the actual utilization. So what I'm saying is that when somebody is collected at the source, we need to make sure that is the source secure, because we need to make sure that this person is getting this. We need to test the waters to see the quality. What type of intervention can we put in? So if it's chlorination, if it's chlorinated, from that point, how is the security? How is the transformation? So what we did now is to buy buckets, which were not for hand washing. The buckets was actually tapped buckets, which means that we were trying to refrain the people from dipping cups into the bucket. Instead, they should be able to use a tap. So that from the point of collection, it's sealed, then it's chlorinated, then at home, nobody opens the lid until the water is finished. That was one part of it. But at the same time, we made sure that each house is given chlorine and ORS. But along the same lines, we were not working alone. What we did was to build the capacity of community-based volunteers who have continued to carry on the work of sensitizing people. Because you might realize that some people would not come out and mention that I have cholera for the simple reason of stigma. Because people will laugh at that person. Being associated yes. So we do hear, although unverified information, that some people have ended up losing their lives by just merely cheating that no, it's just a diarrhea, I ate bad food. But actually it is cholera. So we are trying to see how do we remove the stigma into people so that people can able go to the facility or to any other place which is set up to save their lives. You cannot just lose your life because you think people will laugh at you.
And if you have noticed that in the number of dates that the ministry was announcing, we had community dates. I think it was a result of that.
Yes, there are multiple variables which are associated with that. One is stigma. Two is that lack of access to the facilities, especially if that happens during the night time. There's a fear of people because of junkies and other things. So you find if it happens in the night, the families there will wait for the day to take a person. So that's why I think the first thing which we're trying to emphasize is that immediately you notice that, use your ORS. In case there's no ORS, use salt. So to save a person, because the loss of water in the body. So there were multiple issues. Of course, the transport was another thing, because from our understanding from the fields that taxi drivers also were refused to carry people whom they were suspecting to be cholera people, patients. So there were multiple. So there was a community-based deaths could be associated to many factors.
Yes. safety kuisunga we mwini, that's what they say. The taxi drivers were thinking of safety.
Yes, please.
Otherwise, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But moving on the issue of cholera, I think we should not, it's not in your intention or any other intention, anyone's intention that we should wait for calamities such as cholera to be occurring. We did hear the president hint on the issue of finding lasting solutions, including outbreak of shanty compounds, which are major sources of these diseases in Lusaka, for example. What do you think should be done going forward as a humanitarian organization yourself? I think,
thanks, as you have said, as you have alluded to, I think the underlying factors really is to look at the issues of available facilities for sanitation in communities, and how do we improve in terms of the water reticulation. Okay. When you look at, at times I know there's been issues of resettlement, but that is a long-term issue, because when you're looking at like reorganizing Kanyama, for example, it's something that, of course, you can start it now, but we need to make sure that as at now, we need to put in some measures so that we prevent the further recurrence. Because I think there was one time we were watching, maybe Afias could have had an opportunity to see even a lady negligently rolling in the water. I don't know whether it was true, because
I saw it on social media.
Then even in Kanyama, children, I don't think those children, there were no adults around there, because the children were allowed to be swimming in that dirty water. So the question is, do we really understand what cholera can do? Okay, because I think it's not only the government, the onus also is on us as a people, citizens, yes, to take precautionary measures. Because you can imagine that, especially when you talk about Kanyama, when you're talking about resettling and restricting the place, the way the water system is, of course, we need a lot of technology to go in there, in the interim measure, so that I think cholera should not be something that we should be talking about and killing people. There should be other diseases and not cholera. Yeah.
Well, moving forward, the country is experiencing dry spells. I think this was talked about in terms of the effects of the El Nino. How do you just describe the dry spells that the country is experiencing as an organization?
Yeah, I think to us off, we are able to see it, and we are able to discuss with other colleagues. But I think from the point of being a human and having traveled to see what is happening, surely this has got a negative impact on food security in the country. Because when you look at the regions which are affected, I think to myself that those are the ones which really produce enough food stock for the country. So this is something that is very serious. And as I had mentioned much earlier, I hope Ministry of Agriculture is equal to the task, because I think I foresee starvation. Yeah, that you can't run away, because if you are talking about central Lusaka, eastern, southern, and western, and part of northwestern not having adequate water, the adequate rains, it means that the food security is undermined. And there's no way we can run away from that. So the food, there's no way we're going to get enough grains, because even currently we are seeing that the issues of why we have high cost of meal, besides other variables, it's because of limited stock. Because if we had enough stock, I know that the government should have been using that now to earn a forex, to mitigate other factors of economy. But we cannot export because we have limited stock. So if we have limited stock, and then we are given another 9 months or so to another harvest, then I think in between, I don't think what is in northern and in Wapura, whether we proclaim that there will be a bumper harvest, but what is there might not be sufficient to bridge the deficit of the food. Yeah.
All right, to our viewers, you're watching The People's Verdict, and today we're discussing the humanitarian crisis response, looking at several situations of need that have affected several citizens of the country. You can be part of this program by using the numbers on the screen. You can call in and have a view on the program, or you have a question for Mr. Banda, feel free to do that. Well, Mr. Banda, moving forward, there is forecast in terms of the rainfall pattern. How do you think they can be better done? Because we have seen that there is some form of a gap, because I've seen that several farmers have gone flat out in terms of cultivation. despite of the forecast, which was predicting the current situation?
Yeah, I think, again, I want to get back to the issue of maybe the way we disseminate information to the people. Yeah, information could be there, but are we able to disseminate it correctly to the people, for the people, and who are we targeting that information? Because I think the government has got a system. We have got extension staff, despite maybe limited numbers. Maybe the ratios are quite still very high of one extension staff against the farmers. But I think those could be very critical, or those could be very important channel of trying to communicate the information. So to me, looking at the people, up to now I'm saying, if people had adequate information on the El Nino and which parts of Zambia specifically would be affected, maybe some people could have reduced the risks of investing hugely into agriculture. I'll give you an example. If I was a farmer who has 2 hectares and I have information that it may not or it might, I could have taken a risk of just putting up maybe 1 hectare, so that at least I save a bit of inputs. There's a cost, it's a resource. So if we don't have that, then I think again the challenge comes back to our Ministry of Green Economy to try and adequately invest in the technology. That technology which not only should be through radio, but should be able for you just go on the website and click on those who are knowledgeable in IT should be able to go and click. Should not be a prison of few people to announce, but I should be able to say, okay, how is the trend here? How is the trend here? So in that doing so, people should be able to prepare themselves. So I think here there's a bit of mismatch. So we need to invest a lot in the terms of technology. So that technology which we should be leading should be able to link to the global or the regional aspects. Yeah.
You recently heard you on news. You talked in terms of response by government to ensure that they prepare some relief food and adaptation measures going forward. Maybe just elaborate on some of these issues for the sake of those who are just watching us.
Thank you very much. I think there is one part which, thanks Afias for this one. There's one part which is very interesting in the area of climate change. You know, there's mitigation and adaptation. But you know, the challenge is that people don't understand, a lot of people don't understand these 2 terminologies. Okay, we mistake mitigation for actually saving your life. And that's why it becomes a challenge. So allow me a bit to try and explain to you in a very simple term that mitigation, in its totality, the way it stands, mitigation, it means putting in measures that would try to reduce to try and reduce the effect of climate or the causes of climate change. I want to use the cause, not effect. That's mitigation. So we are trying to say, okay, fine, if fire is causing mitigation, right? So we are going to say, can we reduce fire? And look at another technology that would reduce fire because of the carbon monoxide or carbon which is coming out, right? You see, so that is mitigation. Then adaptation is to reduce the effect that would be caused on a human being because of climate change. Have you seen? So when GMMU go in with bags of maize, they are not doing mitigation. They are trying to reduce the possible starvation of the people. Okay? So I think this is what people need to understand between the 2. We mistakenly use that. You can use it to mitigating death or mitigating hunger. Have you seen? So now, have you seen what other way it has changed? But mitigation is not supplying food. It's actually to try and work on the drivers which lead to climate change. So like when the ministry is sitting there, when we're talking about adaptation, I think more ministry need to look at it from the angle of mitigation. Burning charcoal is to mitigate the greenhouse gases. Have you seen it? To start and reduce. That's mitigation. Adaptation is actually to say, okay, guys, now we are going this direction. So this year, there will be lower rains. We are going to give you early maturing seed, so that you don't completely be without food. That is adaptation. Because now you are trying to try and reduce the adverse effect which can be caused on a human being out of the climate change. Maybe I want to come in to bring you back a bit. Yeah. Like if you look at a chameleon, I want to give you an example of a chameleon. Yeah, the chameleon would be in the arrangement of adaptation. When it sees that something is coming and it is an environment which is green, to reduce the possibility of being identified, it will turn to green.
Oh, yeah.
So that is the way you can describe adaptation. Okay? Yes. That's the way you can describe adaptation. Maybe, Afias, I know you guys, you are grown up in town. Some of us were grown up in the village. Find when you go in a plane,
Yes, the plane. Yeah.
Yes. You find maybe there was a fire, it was swept, but you find maybe there are some areas where the grass has just remained like this.
The green.
Yes, but like patches. Just realize that there was something like maybe it's a certain creature which is there. Oh, then by the time when the fire was coming, it was just releasing some moisture. Yeah, which means it was mitigating. So those is not by nature, by mistake. You wonder why has this remained? Because there was a creature there. Yeah, there could have been something like a very big staff which was trying to make sure that the fire doesn't come. So I wanted people just to understand, the viewers to understand that there is, even if people want to bring in a very lean definition, but it's very clear. The other part is to try and reduce, the actors, remove the actors slowly, which are causing climate change. But the other one, adaptation, is to try and help people to survive. To survive
amidst those prevailing conditions.
Yes. So now this is the question is, where are we as a government of Zambia? Okay. Are we on the mitigation? Are we on the adaptation? Okay. Are we adequately planning for this part? Are we adequately? So we are turning apart. But indicatively, I think we are more on the adaptation than mitigation. Yes. A lot has been said about mitigation, but we are not doing it in that way. Because if now if you hear DMMU has loaded in with 200 metric tons of maize, for example, what comes to you is not adaptation. What comes to you is mitigation. Okay? Because when we want to use the term the way it comes, they have gone for, and lucky enough is that our national, the name of DMMU has got the word mitigation, I think. It's National Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit, yes, yeah. Okay, so it's managing the disaster. Maybe the managing of the disaster now is the one which falls under adaptation.
Yeah.
But the mitigation is not coming out very strong. But there's a time when they were talking about the relocation of the people. So which means now the issues is again going to adaptation. But when you're talking about bringing in the technology which will start reducing the production of greenhouse gases, then you are doing mitigation. Yeah.
Arising from the dry spells that has affected these areas, most of them which fall under your areas of operation, what do you think could be done going forward? You have been to Western Province and you can attest what is on the ground there.
Thank you.
What do you think could be done going forward?
Yeah, I think going forward, you see, as at now, we shall look at the interim, where the government has to come in and see how they will prevent people from starving. That's for immediate, of course. Unfortunately, this one might take a toll on the government resources, because I think when you look at it, if almost half of the country is dry, it means, or 75% of the country is dry, for example, it means people won't have enough food for the coming 9 months up to the next harvest season. Not this one, but next, which means in 2025. So which means the government has to mobilize resources for the interim. But going forward, you see, in development, I think it's important to think outside the box. I like thinking outside the box. The issue is this climate change now has come to stay. It is not leaving us tomorrow. So the government now and the people themselves, we need to start moving to the level of adopting irrigations. Yeah. The mean irrigation is very important. I know people will say because of the pattern, the way we are staying, we can reorganize ourselves and focus on it. Maybe what could be the issues is, since the way the pattern of settlement of small-scale farmers is very scattered.
Yes.
But what could be the issues is, the government can easily start subsidizing the issues of production, I mean irrigation equipment, to make it affordable. So that those individuals who can manage, they can manage. Those in schemes, use it through the scheme, like cooperatives in the scheme, if they're in the scheme. So I think that would be the way forward, because as it is now, if people had the privilege of having these mean irrigation facilities, some of them could have saved their crops.
Yeah, they could have salvaged something.
Yes. So I think that's what I'm saying. Let us start thinking outside the box, because the climate change issues, it is of us. We have mismanaged the environment.
Oh, yeah.
So it is merely reacting to us. Nobody has mismanaged it. We have done that. It's human and natural. But human has been maybe superseded the natural actions. So I think this is basically the way I look at it. That let us adopt the irrigation issues. Yeah.
Perhaps as we go to the end of the program, I just want to get one interesting part, however, it's tracing to some of the things we have talked about in terms of your cholera response. Recently, you were at Central, at police headquarters, rather, where you were donating non-food items in terms of to prevent cholera. Many are donating to hospitals, and others you were donating to the police. Let me just your thought around that issue as we go towards the end of the program.
Yeah, no, thanks very much. I think when you look at the police, it's a very critical institution, which many times a lot of us people who come into development issues, we tend not to think about it. And yet it's a serious, it's an institution which has got constant interface between the community and, between the community and the state, so to speak. Because when you look at them, they are quite vulnerable. The staff, men and women in uniform, are vulnerable to contracting these diseases if we don't help them to put the systems in place. You can imagine they don't have a system to start screening people who come to report offenses. And yet we don't want to go to them. So I think after we thought through, Oxfam and KZF, we thought through and engaging the police, we realized that they need also help like any other institutions. We rushed to schools, we rushed to hospitals, quite all right. But when you look at frequencies of visitations, even those people, they have visited every day, and they have not at a single time sent somebody away. Say because there is a cholera now, so you shouldn't come in. Or because there is a COVID, you don't come to report a case. So that's why I mean there is really a need that in the future programming, especially on the issues of humanitarian responses, I think the service has to be brought in, into being. They need to be supported because these are human beings. They have their homes. So when they knock off, they go home. So we don't want them to start spreading the diseases which they have contracted for the purpose of trying to help the nation. So that's why I think we took that measure to go and donate there, and we said should reach out to about 15 stations. At the same time we said even headquarters also need to have that. We are planning that should resources allow, we need to continue finding ways of supporting each other. But I think now we want to take it that the service also, the police service, should be part of our programming when it comes to interventions. Because we are protecting, it's a twofold arrangement. The person who's coming to report needs to be secure as well. But the person who is receiving the report and discharging justice need to be safe as well.
All right. We have come to the end of the program, but before I let you go, Mr. Banda, I'd just like to get your general concluding remarks in terms of humanitarian crisis response, and also just touch on the issue of behavioral change on some of these crises that affect the country, because they also border in terms of our personal conduct. So I think basically we have seen that with
the change of the environment and the climate itself, then in terms of humanitarian crisis also will be on the increase. So I think it is upon each and every one of us as individuals to be responsible. You see, partly, when you look at the issues of cholera, I think basically you are talking about hygiene, sanitation at the household level, you know. And why should you take your garbage and throw it along the road and you clog the
drainage system?
Yeah, the drainage system is clogged because of you, an individual. Why should somebody, you know, throw, you know, they build the banana shells on the road so that the council should come and pick, and the council everywhere, you know? Why should diapers be thrown anywhere? We can't find a safer way of disposing them off. So it's like you feel you are safe throwing, but these are things which come and hit you. Because when the cholera breaks out, definitely it has got no boundary. So I think it's very important that citizens take ownership of the country. There's no one who's going to do that. No matter how committed the council might be in terms of cleaning the street, in terms of doing a lot of stuff, dislodging, which they are doing now in compounds, you know, you cannot continue doing that because, of course, even themselves, taxpayers' money.
It's an expense.
It's an expense as well. So I think I need to take responsibility of my homestead. You know, I need to make sure that my home is clean. I need to make sure that my water is clean. Okay? We know that like as we are, we know there is water utility company, and we say, okay, they are going to give us water because we pay BU, so they need to take care of that. But at the end of the day, I think there is also a responsibility for my part to make sure that my family is taking clean water. We understand people talk about the economy that's bad, you cannot afford the 25 kwacha chlorine, but that is once for a certain period. So I think we need just to stand up and start appreciating that hygiene is very paramount wherever we are. Yeah. But for the side of the government, I think they need to start policing. To me, I think, you know, one time I was driving along this Kasangula Road. I saw a gentleman in front throwing out the beans. But unfortunately, my phone was far to capture the number plate. Then I flashed for the gentleman and tried to overtake him to block him, but he just sneaked out. You know, it's that because of that lack of ownership. The country is ours. Okay, this garbage is generated by us. Yeah. So why don't we take responsibility of making sure that we see safe disposal of such? So I think I would like to urge the people of Zambia that our friends who have gone because of cholera, some of them, unfortunately, they never contributed to this, but they were caught in the web. Yeah. There are some who were, but others were not, and they were just caught in the web. So I think it's us to make sure that we are up to the system. And then again, to the part of the government, I think the preparedness has to be adequate. We don't need to wait for too long until a life is lost. I think that, especially preventable diseases like cholera. So I think that is my plea to the fellow countrymen and ladies, that let us take care of our own country. And let us not harm the environment excessively. You see, I always want to say, Afias, that what is happening, it's not happening from anywhere or by mistake. It's because we have continuously harmed the environment. You know, the environment is a sum total of living and non-living. Okay? And these are systems which regulate our well-being, taking care of our air, regulating a lot of systems. But you have continuously cutting into it, such that it is now it's reaching a level where it's no longer very strong to prevent you from the bad forces. See, that's what is happening. So now that's why we are calling for reinstallation. That's why you have heard people saying reinstallation. Why should we reinstall something if it was not damaged? Okay, yeah. That's why now we're talking about reinstallation. Everybody say, okay, let's start reinstallation. So, because we have harmed the environment. So it is merely reacting to our activities because now it has become defenseless. So since it has become defenseless, it is just letting everything go. Letting the drought come. Letting the floods hammer. Let cyclone hammer. Let all diseases which come hammer. Let the sun, the temperatures go high, because it cannot defend us anymore. Yeah. So it's us to break. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Banda, for making an appearance for this show. I think our viewers there, they have gotten a number of issues as in terms of humanitarian crisis response, as well as the issues that we can do as citizens to prevent some of these issues from happening. We have talked in terms of responsibility. It is everyone's responsibility to ensure that we take part in preventing diseases such as cholera and other things. On part of government, the issue of preparedness. Mr. Banda did mention that government need to double efforts in terms of prevention. We don't have to wait for lives to be lost before the situation is brought under control. Your host, I've been Afias Kaptula, and in the studio and on transmission other, it has been Mr. Elijah Chifita. We have to say thank you to Mr. Banda and yourselves for watching. Till next time, bye-bye. Keep watching Camnet TV, not just another channel.